Well, good evening, everybody. This is Tim Terranova, the proud superintendent of the Victor Central School District. And welcome to the first town hall for the 23-24 school year. I have some amazing guests with me this evening. I want to introduce, actually, I'm going to explain this before I introduce them. So we have what's called the Unsung Hero Awards. And those occur at the opening staff meeting at the end of August, where representatives from transportation, clerical, buildings and grounds, teacher aides, and food service basically submit nominations for people in those important professions that do an amazing job in the district and deserve a unique praise and just recognition for everything they do. And we've been doing this for a few years, long before I got here. And then once the nominations are in, then there's a selection process for the final candidates for each of the professionals. And so this year, the award winners in transportation was Doreen Benshop. For clerical is Aaron Letman. For buildings and grounds is David Graham. As a teacher aide was Sandy Kramer. And for food service was Ann Rauscher. Unfortunately, Ann cannot be a part of our conversation tonight, but the rest of these amazing unsung heroes are with me tonight. And I thought it was a great idea to bring them on in our first town hall, because typically we celebrate students on these town halls, which we will do. And I'll talk about that towards the end. But it's a great way to start with our adults who do such an amazing job, along with our professionals in the teaching realm, the administration realm, and all the other staff that works collaboratively with us. We have over 800 staff members that work for kids in our district. So we really want to recognize everyone. So these are our unsung heroes, and they were recognized again at the opening faculty meeting. I just wanted to talk a little bit with them and kind of see what makes them special, because I think it's important for people to see the amazing work that they do. So I'll start with Doreen. Doreen, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. How are you?
And so Doreen, so tell us a little bit about your job.
Well, I transport students to and from school safely.
How many years you've been working in Victor?
This is my 11th year.
11th year. And
wish
all
I'd
right.
started sooner.
So what, say that again?
I said I wish I'd started sooner.
All right, well, let me ask you, how come you didn't?
Because I was doing childcare in my home.
That's pretty important too.
Kids, raising kids. Yeah.
So you raised kids, plus you did childcare.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. How many years did you do that?
17.
Fantastic. All right. Now I don't want to make you uncomfortable, but because I'm gonna read a couple things that were part of the presentation given to you and why you were selected. But before I do that, talk a little bit about some of the most important parts of your job as a bus driver.
Well, I said transporting safely to and from school is the most important thing, right? I think. But I have a passion for teaching. I love to interact with the kids. I tell new drivers when we're training that I could never transport cargo. It would be so boring. The kid piece is the piece that I really enjoy about my job. I really enjoy teaching them how to be kind and how to solve problem solving.
Yeah.
You know, how they can deal with different behaviors on the bus. I'm just passionate about that.
Now, who's your friend that just showed up for a second?
Oh, well, hopefully he won't come back again.
Why? What's his name?
Levi. And he's very social. I wish I could take the bus with me.
He's amazing. He looks amazing.
He's very social, and hopefully he doesn't see the deer in the yard, because he'll
No, that'll start. It's okay. It's fine.
Right.
It's fine. So Doreen, you had a very extensive background in why you were nominated. I'll just read a couple pieces to it. During the driver's shortage, Doreen was amazing. She went above and beyond trying to recruit new bus drivers. She's responsible for 2 of our new drivers and is now training her own husband. Is he trained yet?
Almost.
To become a driver as well. This August marks her 10th year as a school bus driver. It has been 10 years of safe driving, building good relationships with our students and coworkers, and 10 years of excellence. You are also invited to become a trainer and agreed to take on that role. And you officially became a certified examiner, which means not only do you train new drivers, but you do the testing on current drivers too. So you have a ton of responsibility, because not only do you have your own responsibility of transporting our kids safely to and from school, you're basically in charge of making sure other drivers are safe to drive.
That's correct. And that's the part that I really, really enjoy. That's the other part. Training and mentoring new drivers. I'm just passionate about it. And I
That's great.
really, really enjoy working with our drivers.
And we'll come back to you in a little bit, Dorian, but thank you for being here. Aaron Letman, who is works as in a clerical position in our intermediate library. How you doing, Aaron?
I'm very well. How are you this evening?
I'm great. So tell us a little bit about how long you've been in Victor and maybe some important aspects of your job.
Sure. So I've been with the district 11 years. I started as a teacher aide at the early childhood school and have been in my current position as the library clerk at the intermediate building for, this is my 5th year now. And my job every day is to greet kids when they come into the library and help them check their books in and out. I assist with Chromebook questions, printing, helping kids find books in the library and recommending good books for them to read.
So that's that's a very important part of your job, right?
Yes.
You also were nominated because you go above and beyond the call of duty. So some of the things that the person who nominated you talked about was that you brought a wonderful indoor recess initiative to the intermediate building alongside your mom, where students learn to quilt, and once several quilts are made, they're donated through Project Linus. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
And then Project Linus provides handmade blankets to children 0 to 18 in the United States who are seriously ill, traumatized, or otherwise in need. So that's an amazing thing that's way beyond your job description. And then you do also a wonderful job as part of the Sunshine Committee, as part of the Community Reads Committee, and also creating library displays that are second to none and often feature readers from the student body of all ages. So where did you get all those ideas from?
The Project Linus idea is something that my mother used to do when she was a teacher's aide in the Canandaigua City School District. And she retired a few years ago, and we were talking one afternoon about how I wished it was something we could bring to our district. And she offered to start volunteering and working with the kids in our building. It's a great opportunity for kids during the winter months when the weather is cold and they can't go outside and they have to have indoor recess, for them to be able to come to the library during their recess time and not only learn how to sew and quilt, but they're also doing something that benefits others, and not just others, but other children and other kids. And it's just been great to see how well received it's been by the kids and the staff. They're so proud of their work and so excited when they can find their pieces that they're sewn together in the quilts that are produced.
That's great.
It's a win-win for everybody.
It's amazing. You love doing
Yeah.
that stuff, right? Sounds like you love helping people,
I
obviously.
do. Yes, I do.
All right. Well, thank you for being here. We got a couple more questions for everybody, but want to introduce David Graham from Buildings and Grounds, a unanimous choice as the unsung hero from that group. How you doing, David?
I'm great. Thank you.
Good to see you.
You.
So how long you been working in Victor, and maybe talk a little bit about a couple things that are really important in your very important job that you have with us.
Well, I've been working at Victor since 2012, and I think it was July. I started working in buildings and grounds, doing summer groundskeeping. I did that for probably 5 years, 6 years actually. And then I got into maintenance, and I've been doing that ever since.
So let me ask you, you graduated from Victor, right?
I graduated from Victor in 2011.
So did you go to Victor your whole life, or were you in another school and then moved to Victor?
I've been on this campus in a roundabout way since 1998, when I was in kindergarten.
98.
Since I was in kindergarten, yes.
So you started in kindergarten here.
I started in kindergarten, went all through school.
And then, go ahead, sorry.
Then I went to a college program for 3 years, life prep at NAS. And during my first year there, I got my job working summers here at director.
Then you started in the buildings and grounds department, right?
Buildings and grounds with Doug Moore as my boss.
Yep. Now, tell everybody a little bit about some of the things you do now as in your job.
In my job now, I do everything from fixing bathroom appliances to fire alarms to pretty much anything and everything. The fixing water fountains, fixing machinery.
Yeah, if you go on to campus and you see our campus, David's one of the most hardworking individuals known out there. Let me just read a little bit about David's background and why he was nominated. He's always pleasant, friendly, and helpful when asked to complete a task. Just an all-around amazing person. He's dedicated to Victor Schools. One of David's duties that many people don't understand is he's in charge of the fire alarm systems on campus. He's mastered that and now coordinates all of the Victor Fire Department visits as needed, which obviously is critically important to the safety of everyone on campus. So we basically, not to put too much pressure on it, David, but basically we charge David with overseeing the entire fire alarm system so that in the case of an emergency, that our kids and staff are safe. And we do that because of the absolute trust we have in his mechanical understanding and his ability to figure things out and just his oversight of such a critically important aspect of our school. He also has a can-do attitude. He will figure out whatever needs to be repaired, and he'll do so with a positive attitude and with a smile. So David's one of those individuals who combines his high competency for his job with just a great attitude, great social emotional intelligence. So it's great to have you here, David.
Great to be here.
And then last but certainly not least,
Okay.
Sandy Kramer, also at the intermediate school as an amazing teacher aide. I'll answer that. I'll tell the audience 28 years in the
Correct.
Central School District, correct?
Yes, and it doesn't seem like that long, honestly. Yeah.
So talk about some of the most critical things you do, Sandy, in your job that makes a difference for kids.
Well, I did start out at the primary building. So I was in a kindergarten and then a third grade. And then the next year I came over to the intermediate building with that third grader. But since then, I've been in fourth grades, fifth grades, sixth grades. I've been in different settings, co-taught settings, 12-1-1 settings, and the regular classroom settings. I've had the privilege of being a one-on-one aide or an access aide for all 28 of those years, which means I developed quite a personal relationship, hopefully trusting and respected relationship with certain individual students within those classrooms.
And what do you think you have to have in terms of characteristics to be great at your job when you're dealing with, working with kids, especially kids with maybe some complex needs?
Well, I think two of the things is I have to really make sure I'm pretty consistent in my actions and pretty positive in all of my language with the different kids I deal with, because I think that's very important, because we're trying to establish a better self-confidence in them. We want them to see that mistakes are okay to be made, but we want to give them the tools and strategies that they need to overcome the things like anxieties or poor self-confidence. Just know that they're important and they have a lot to do with their education, and we can help them through their troublesome areas.
Well, again, just like the others, watching the entire group get up and give you a standing ovation when you were honored tells the kind of respect that you've earned across this district. Some of the things people said about you is that you are a problem solver, approaching each challenge with creativity and collaboration and thinking outside the box. She's the definition of perseverance and a role model for us all. She's always planning ahead and forward thinking with the needs of her students in mind. And I think you can tell, I think just from the fact that when I asked you a question, talked about, some of the attributes that you have in your job, You don't have to think very much in terms of what they are. You can really, you have a deep understanding of what you need to do to be really successful with kids, and the adults that work around you have a tremendous amount of respect for you. So, really appreciate that. Let me ask everybody, and anybody can answer this one. What do you enjoy most about your job? Who wants to, anybody can jump in. What do you enjoy most?
I think it's because I get to be with children every single day, and I get to see them in all aspects of their school day, whether they're having a lot of fun on the playground during recess, which is many times their most important part of the day. But I get to see them when they're happy. I get to see them when they're sad. I get to see them when they're struggling a little bit. And I get to see them learn and make progress. And one thing, I get to see them working with wonderful teachers, because I can attest to all of the great teachers that we have. And I think it's an asset to all those kids. And I love to see the fact that they're able to work with those teachers and make the progress and the gains that they can while they're in our intermediate building, especially.
That's awesome. Thanks, Sandy. Anybody else? What do you most enjoy about your job?
I like that I get to work with pretty much every student and staff member in the building. I enjoyed my time working in a classroom and building those intense relationships with kids. But being in the library, pretty much every kid in the building will walk through the doors of the library at least once a month. So getting to see them and forge those relationships with all the kids in the building is a real joy for me.
Now, Aaron, I don't know if people know about it, but there's almost 1,000 kids, or maybe over 1,000 kids in that building. So you're basically seeing 1,000 kids.
Yeah.
And getting to know them.
Yes, and trying to remember all their names.
And you're also trying to get them to and working with many others, but certainly in your role to love reading.
Yes.
Yeah. So think about that combination, getting to know 1,000 kids and teaching them to love reading. That's a pretty important job right there. Really appreciate that. Doreen, what do you enjoy most? You kind of talked about it a little bit, but what's your favorite part of your job?
I love interacting with the kids. You know, I love training drivers, and I sometimes think, gee, would be fun to do that all the time, make that a full-time job, but I would miss the kids. And the challenges of the behavior management is, you know, while you're driving down the road.
Yeah, you have one of the, I keep saying the word complex. I'm trying to think of another name, but it's really complex. I don't know how, you know, to drive a bus with all the kids. How many kids are roughly on a bus usually? Roughly.
If all my kids are on in the afternoon, I have 72.
All right. So you got seven, not to make it too, it's not exaggerating it. You got 72 lives in your hands every day. And you main focus is to keep them safe and get them to where they need to be with a complex, huge vehicle, but you're also having to manage behaviors too sometimes.
And the classroom is very small. I mean, the bus is like 9 feet wide. It's 37 feet long, including my area up front. So you're 32 feet by 9 feet, and you have that many children in that space. So a lot of the seats are 3 to a seat. And so the kids are 3 in a seat, and that can accelerate behaviors a little bit when they're that close. Well, it's a challenge. It's a challenge, but again, very high expectations. And I work with the kids, and I heard, is it Aaron say that consistency is really important, and developing relationship with your kids and your families and making those parent phone calls and developing a relationship is just really, really important. All the groundwork that you lay down and all the effort you put into the relationship, it helps so much in your job later on.
Yeah.
If you establish those relationships and those expectations, and you come alongside the parents and have that open communication, it's amazing the relationships that can be built. And our past supervisor said that a bus driver can have students for 7 years or even 12 or 13 years. So it's an ongoing relationship with these people, which is really neat. It can be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, you literally see them, some of them when they're 4 years old, all the way up to 8th grade or beyond, even into high school.
Yeah, we have a couple of runs that it's K-12.
And it doesn't matter even if you have them till say 6th or 7th grade, by the time they're juniors and seniors, they'll still always remember you.
Oh, sure,
And their
sure.
families will remember you even more.
Right, right. And then you see them down at Climb Aboard and they're,
Yeah.
over and giving you hugs, which is
Yep.
really.
You never had David, did you? David, were you on Doreen's bus? No, you were gone by then.
I was not on Doreen's bus, but there was a lot of familiar faces up there.
Yeah.
that do know me from when I was in school.
So,
Does he remember his bus number though?
yeah, well,
My bus number. My bus number was 193, I think the last bus. Oh, actually, no, it was 239, Jason's bus, Jason Augustine.
you remember that?
Yeah.
I remember the weirdest things.
Right.
I like here.
All right, with everything that you do, David, what's the one or two things you enjoy the most?
The things I enjoy the most, there's a lot of people here, a lot of friends of mine that their kids are now in school here. Kids I went to school with, their kids are here, and I have family members, cousins. It's nice seeing people grow up. You being an adult, it's a whole different thought process. Just seeing these kids grow up and stuff, and
That's pretty cool.
the other thing I guess I enjoy is it's always something new. Every day it's a different situation. There's never 2 days that are alike.
Yep.
What?
So go ahead, sorry.
I could fix, there could be a fire alarm, or I could fix anything. It's different every day.
What's interesting about all four of you is that each of you has a tremendous responsibility in your job. How do you, maybe just one or two of you could say, how do you handle the responsibility knowing that, your job is so important?
Oh, I know that I have help handling it because of I know I've mentioned it before, but the teachers, because there's a lot of open communication, which I really value. And there's a lot of support for me in my job from teachers, from counselors, psychologists, from the administration. Whenever some of that support is needed in a particular situation or with a particular student, I know I can depend on it. So that really helps me a lot in my job.
Great. Anybody else want to chime in on that? It's okay if you don't.
I would say my old teachers, Chris Marshall, my boss, my colleagues, that if I'm having a bad day, I just talk to them.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right, at last question for each of you, is there one or two, I mean, you kind of already did, David, so you can go back to that if you want, but is there one or two people you want to give a shout out to that have made a big impact on your life at Victor? It could be anybody that's really made a huge impact. Anybody want to go?
I know I have had the pleasure of working with a number of teachers over the years. We're very lucky in all of the buildings to have the staff that we do. But I think the person that's had the most influence on me professionally, and who I've been so fortunate to work with the past few years, is our teacher librarian, Maggie Elliott. She has been a passionate supporter of access to books for kids, literacy, technology, and just a great role model for me. And I've learned so much from her in my time and working in the intermediate building. And I just feel very fortunate to work alongside her every day. And I think our building is extremely lucky to have her.
And when you work with somebody that closely, you better get along with them, right? I mean,
Yeah.
because you guys are together all the time.
We're a team, just the two of us in the library every day.
Yeah, with a lot of kids.
Lots of kids, lots of teachers, lots of staff in and out every day.
Yeah, Maggie's incredible as a school.
She
librarian.
is, and she's created such an amazingly warm and welcoming and amazing environment in our library.
Thanks, Aaron. Who wants to go next?
I have 3 names of people that have been impacts on me. And
Really?
3.
That's pretty good. Go ahead.
The first one would be Doug Moore, my first boss I had here. He's the one that got me in here, and I worked under him for number of years. And Dave DeWitt and Chris Marshall, they're the ones that got me in here full-time working in 2018, and actually when I got hired here as a maintenance assistant. And I'd say those two have been pretty impactful in my life in recent years.
That's awesome. And I know you've been very impactful, not only on those three individuals, but many, many others, David. So what's great about you is you got another, 40 years left in you to work in Victor. It's amazing.
Yeah, 20 something. Yeah.
You never know. You can
You
work as
never
long as,
know.
yeah. You
I
got a
could be the
long
next-
career.
I could be the
Well,
next Brian Parker or something. I
Yes.
can work for 30 years.
Brian Parker. Yeah, just so
Yes,
that
I
if anybody's watching, Brian Parker is amazing, amazing head custodian in our district for years and years, and he just retired last week, actually. Hopefully we'll see him around subbing, but yeah, if you could last that long, that would be amazing, David.
He always picked on me.
He did?
He knew me when I was a little kid, and it's just, we had a special thing, me and him.
That's right. You knew him since you were little.
Yeah.
All right, Doreen or Sandy, who wants to go next?
I need to give a shout out to our leadership in the transportation office. And all the office staff for that matter, for their support. They've always got an ear for us when we need it. And even though with the understaffing, it's just pretty stressful, continues to be. And our mechanics, I have to shout out to our mechanics who have been tirelessly jumping on buses and driving different routes. And then getting back and trying to get their job done. And they're never short with us. They're always accommodating and supportive, and which is huge. I mean, we've got a great team, I believe.
It's amazing with your department how everybody, and I think it's like that across our departments in our district, but you're an example of everybody just pitching in and doing whatever it takes. So you're right. You got the director of transportation driving buses. You've got the mechanics driving buses. You've got people like you training drivers and driving buses. And it's a lot of work. We were joking before we went on the air. I mean, what time? Doreen's lucky she's a veteran, so she doesn't have to get into work till 6:20 in the morning, right? Yeah. 6:20 is like sleeping in for you.
It is. I tell people the hardest part of my job is when the alarm clock goes off at 5:15.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you've earned it.
It's true.
And then Sandy, certainly
Well,
you out.
I guess I would have to mention a couple teachers, but they're both retired. But when I first started 28 years ago, Nancy Sheehan, who was a kindergarten teacher, and then Linda Daggs, who was a third grade teacher, they were both so welcoming to me. And they're both soft-spoken, but very excited about their jobs and very passionate about the jobs. And they were really, they had so much invested in each one of the students in their classrooms. And they just shared all of those wonderful qualities with me. And that's why I continued on for 27 years after that.
Wow. Were you ever able to tell them how much they meant to you?
Linda Daggs, I did keep in touch with her quite often because she would invite me back to her house. Every summer, she would have her whole class of kids there to come to her pool for the summer. So she would invite me back on those occasions to come and meet her new students and just to spend time with her. So yes, I was able to. We had a great friendship too. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks.
it is awesome.
All right. Did you want? So go ahead, David.
I knew Mrs. Daggs back in the day. She was the next room over from where I was. And
Oh, did you love her and enjoy her? And
I was in Miss Procton's third grade class.
okay. Mm-hmm.
And we used to do a lot of stuff with Mrs. Daggs. It was
Together. Yeah. Yeah. It was a great team and great teachers. I think I had fun with them and learned a lot from them too.
Well, this was a pleasure for me to just have you on. And again, Ann was not able to be on. Ann's an amazing professional in our food service department who just does just a great job and has tremendous relationships with kids and adults. And unfortunately, Ann was busy tonight, but I want to throw a shout out for Ann because she's also one of our unsung heroes. We always say in our district. We have over 800 people working for the benefit of our children in this place. And no one person is more or less important than anybody else. Everybody's got a critically important job to do. And you're 4 examples of that. And to just get the public to be able to listen to some of the things that you do every day, I think is really important. So I just want to thank you for that and for everything you do for our kids, and just appreciate you and the hard work and the complex jobs you have. So thanks for coming on tonight, and we'd really enjoyed having you. I'm going to stay on the town hall just for a few minutes. I want to give a couple updates, but I want to say thank you again to David, Sandy, Doreen, and Aaron. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So as our unsung heroes exit, you just hit the there we go. As the unsung heroes exit, I just want to give a couple updates. Again, this is our first town hall, and it's really a pleasure to do this. We're going to try to do this once a month. And we used to do it every week during COVID. I know many of you remember that. Right now we're doing it once a month because there's so much going on. And what I want to mention quickly tonight, and I'll talk for another 10 minutes or so, is we have a strong focus in our district. I mean, one of the major emphasis in our district is to ultimately get kids to graduate with the skills necessary to, for lack of a better word, compete with anybody that they need to in any field that they're interested in participating in life. I know that's pretty wordy and pretty fluffy, but basically, whether it's career, whether it's college, whether it's military, no matter that area, we want kids to be able to have the skills necessary to be successful in those areas when they graduate from high school. So we're constantly looking in our district to try to take the incredible professionals that we're working with and utilize their expertise to have a growth mindset and really meet the needs of those kids every day. We're very lucky to have a 5-year strategic plan that's on our website that really gives us direction. And then that 5-year strategic plan is broken down into a yearly plan. So we're in our 2nd year of the 5-year plan for the 23-24 school year. And that definitely gives us a strong direction forward on what we're trying to accomplish this year to ultimately get to what I just talked about, which is having kids being able to participate and be successful, whether it's military, career, college, or a combination of the 3 of them. One of the main focus areas that I think puts us in a unique spot, is unique to our district, is we're trying to integrate 3 major areas across pre-K through 12th grade, and that's tied to our strategic plan. And that's academic proficiencies or competencies, social emotional skills, and equity and inclusion. It's not one is more important than the other, or one is separate from the other. We're integrating the 3 aspects of those major focus areas. Academic proficiencies is pretty clear, right? Reading, writing, thinking, problem solving, the ability to do math, understand history, understand science, and just the ability to think and communicate effectively. That's critical. But we also want to add those social emotional skills that we know are necessary for people to relate to one another in the world, which includes self-management, self-awareness, building relationships, collaboration, and those soft skills, they like to say, they like to call them, that are really important to be able to, again, to work with others, understand yourself in relation to other people, and build those abilities to deal with tough situations and even challenging situations where you got to persevere and have resilience. And then the 3rd piece to that is equity and inclusion. And really that's focused on empathy. And empathy isn't feeling sorry for other people. Empathy is understanding other individuals and what they're going through and what makes them tick and what about them makes them unique. And it's appreciating differences in people and celebrating those differences, no matter what it is, because those differences are what makes us a stronger community and a stronger culture. So equity and inclusion, and making sure those differences that people feel valued for their differences and who they are, not just accepted. And there's a big difference between valued and accepted. And though that's a big push in our district. So when you combine that, I understand that focus on equity and inclusion, SEL or social emotional skills, and certainly academic proficiencies, we believe that we can really build with our parent community some of the strongest people that you could possibly have as they exit high school and enter the world. So really, again, it sounds a little bit fluffy, I know it, but it's like a broken record. Those three areas, our management plan and focusing on our kids, that's what we're all about. And you're going to see that. You should see this emphasis in those three areas really in everything your kids do, and what they bring home to school and the communication you have with your building leadership and your teachers and staff. That's what we're pushing. That's what our emphasis is on. In terms of our town halls, we want to celebrate some of that. And again, mostly it's really about kids. So, and this is a bit tentative, but I just want to kind of talk a little bit about what we're going to be offering this year in our monthly town halls. In October, we're going to go on and we're going to hopefully bring on our new drug and alcohol counselor, which is a new position in the high school that ultimately it's new because we need support, both proactive and reactive support for our kids, especially kids who are struggling with substance abuse. And we also need families to understand the work we're going to do proactively with the community to support our kids and make sure they have a strong fundamental understanding of alcohol and other drugs and the harm that they can cause. And it's a great position to have. And we're going to talk a little bit about that role. It's also going to be a conversation about Red Ribbon Week and how important that is. And we're going to move into some celebratory work with our fall. I hope they'll be able to come on both the the junior high fall musicals cast as well as the fall high school play. We're going to get representatives of the fall musical for the junior high and the fall play from the high school on in October. In November, we're going to talk to some students about the Equity and Inclusion Initiative. We're also going to talk about an event that we're hosting in November. It's a huge event. It's called Rock to Change. It's a summit that's on a Friday during the day where kids from probably, 30 different school districts are gonna come together. We're actually gonna do it at the BOCES facility in Monroe County because we need such a huge space, but we're going to be sponsoring it along with East High School. And it's really about bringing kids of diverse races and religions together to talk about differences, but celebrate those differences and work to make sure that we can create a society that appreciates those differences and understands them. And it's been going on now for, I think, 7 or 8 years, maybe 9 years. And this is the first year, I believe, that Victor's helping to host it. So we're going to talk a little bit about that in November, along with our Equity and Inclusion Initiative. I'm also going to have on some student leaders with me that do an amazing job in the student body across our 5 buildings. December is a celebration of music. It's music. We got amazing concerts going on in December. I'm also going to try to get on our amazing robotics team representation. So we're going to have kids who are involved in music and robotics. January, myself and Mr. Valise, our assistant superintendent for business, we're going to talk about the capital project that's been put on hold for a little bit based upon the need to get the state to really make final determinations on how much aid they're going to give us for this capital project. Hopefully that'll be done in the next few weeks. We're looking at a potential capital project vote in late November or early December. And if that doesn't come to fruition, then we'll do January or February. So somewhere between December and February, we're looking to have the vote. And that's why, obviously, if it's in December, we'll talk about it earlier, but most likely the vote's going to be January or February. So we're going to have a special town hall just to talk about that capital project and be as transparent as possible about what we're doing and why we're doing it and the cost around it. February, I'd love to have on some elementary student leaders. They don't get a chance to come on to the town hall as much, but it's great when we have them on from all 3 buildings. We have an amazing new position called the work-based coordinator at the high school, who's really focused on driving up opportunities, especially for our juniors and seniors in high school to do internships in businesses across the community. So we definitely want to have that. That person, Mrs. Utz, who doesn't know this yet, but I'm going to ask her to come on and march with me and bring on some high school students to talk about their internships and all the amazing things that we're really starting with this year. And I think it's a great way to get work-based experience and a great expansion of our work at the high school. Also, March or April, we're going to have on representatives from our high school musical because that occurs in March, and that's just an amazing event. So looking forward to that. April will be our budget presentation for the May budget vote, which we always do. Again, we'll bring back for an encore performance, Mr. Valise. And in May, I'd love to celebrate our seniors, the class of 2024, who thankfully are just starting out. We have a long way to go with them, but by May, it'll be a great opportunity to celebrate our seniors. Again, this is not written in stone, but those are some of the topics that we want to talk about this year. And if you can't make the live presentation on Facebook Live, then it's taped on our Facebook page and you can watch it at your leisure. At any time, you can add comments to the Facebook page about the presentation or during the presentation or even after it. And if you have questions, then we will try to answer those questions via Facebook. Just a couple other real quick updates from my office. We are attempting to work with the New York State Department of Transportation to lower the speed limit on High Street from the Lane Road High Street intersection all the way to the Village Line, which happens to be right about halfway down our campus before we get to High Street and 96. That's been a challenge to try to really convince the New York State Department of Transportation that instead of having a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit, it's better to have a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit in front of the school, because right now cars are accelerating if they're coming from Lane Road and High Street in that intersection. They're accelerating beyond 40 miles an hour, and then they're supposed to slow down to 30 miles an hour halfway through the campus, which is a challenge as they're going downhill. So we really believe, obviously, the slower cars go in front of the school, the more safer it is, both reactively to not injure somebody or get in a car accident. But unfortunately, if we do get a car hitting a student or an adult, the slower they're going, the less chance of serious injury or a fatality is to happen. So we really believe it's important to lower that speed limit. Our Victor PTSA has been amazing in terms of advocating for it, as well as the town and village of Victor. So I appreciate their leadership as well. I just wanted to update you that right now the New York State Department of Transportation is considering it. And I will let you know their decision as soon as they let us know. And then last, I want to just give an update on social media. I actually found an article from the Cleveland Clinic back in 2021, the effects of social media on children. And I'll just read a couple things from it. Social media makes it easy to compare. Some of the challenges are social media making it easy to compare oneself to another. Certainly that's for kids as well as adults. Most people put on social media what they want you to see. And by using social media, all of us have the ability to access endless information anytime we want to. And that can be very hard on our kids. Social media has made it in some ways very challenging for our kids. Just the pressure of social media, some of the negative effects of it, some of the negative things that are put on there about kids from other kids or even adults occasionally. You just can't get away from it. In the old days, you can get away from it. When you go back in the old days, I guess when I was in school and after a little bit in the 80s and the 90s and even the 2000s, you could escape some of that once you came out of school. And we're working really hard that in school, we treat each other with respect and treat each other the way we want to be treated. But we also have to do that on social media as well, because that goes on for hours and hours past school. So it's really important that we have conversations with our kids about the impact of social media. It certainly can have a positive effect. We utilize it in many different aspects in our school. It helps a lot of our kids learn how to communicate with others effectively, navigate relationships, and how to manage somebody who isn't being kind to them. That happens through social media. We can work with kids on that. But it is something to really just talk about. And I know you do a great job as parents talking to your kids about it. Some tips that they had around working with your kids on social media: determine if your child is ready for it. Make sure that you talk to your kids about the dangers of social media. Limit screen time based upon age appropriateness, and basically also the experiences your kids are having, whether they're 6 or 16. If they're spending too much time on screen time and on social media and it's becoming unhealthy, then we need to limit that. Monitor their usage. That's the only way you can limit screen time. And probably most important, model good behavior. But as adults, we need to model good behavior on social media so that we're great examples for our kids. In terms of social media and the school district and adults, I guess I try to give 2 quick reminders about that. You know, with all the great, and we do have some amazing sites on social media that parents can go to get information around not just the district, but the town of Victor or the New York State community. There's lots of sites you can go to. Just remember, and this is my opinion, to separate fact versus opinion. Sometimes we all go on social media, and I've been guilty of it, saying things and it sounds like it's actually factual, but a lot of times it's just somebody's opinion. And I think there's an important skill set where we're trying to develop with kids to make sure they distinguish between facts and opinions and understand that everybody's entitled to an opinion, but that they really need to make sure that what people are saying is actually true. And that can be pretty difficult with some of the things floating around on social media. The other piece is, if you want information from the school and you want accurate information, then make sure you go to one of our social media sites or email or call the people who are directly involved in that situation. Because anything outside of that you're going to read about could be second, third, or fourth hand and may not actually be accurate. So the most important thing is, if you have questions around what's going on in the school or questions about a situation, and it's on our own social media sites, then please, we encourage you to access those, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, or even, you know, go old school and call or email people at the school to get the factual information. As I always say, you can always give me a call if you have any questions about anything. I'm always going to try to direct you, if it's a more specific question, again, to the people that are most directly involved with your children. If it's a more global question or more conceptual question or conversation around the district as a whole, certainly I'll have that with you. But again, fact versus opinion, and then making sure information is factual and firsthand when it comes to school related business. I would just encourage everyone to do both of those things. It was great talking to you. Again, if you have any questions or comments, just give me a shout via email or give me a phone call. And like I said, we're going to have monthly town halls. We're going to send out the dates in the next week or so, specific dates for each month. October 12th, I believe, is the next one. And we'll try to advertise those way ahead of time. And we're going to do a lot of celebrating this year because Victor's an amazing district. Have a great night and take care. Thank you.